وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ وَأُولَئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ.
Respected brothers, we gather here for a very important purpose, a very important concern. And this is the reason why we make this effort and come to this place. Firstly, we have to acknowledge the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this life, blessed us with many blessings, and He has given us this life as a test for the journey for the hereafter. All the things we do in this life will have consequences in the next life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created many different types of creations, many different species. According to the ulama, there are up to 18,000 different let's say species and birds and different, just not on earth but beyond. But from within these creations, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the human being considers the human being to be the best of all creations, the best of all the different creations we have out there. This is insan, this is human. Allah has honored the human being and made the human a vicegerent, a khalifa, a deputy. All the qualities which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has equipped the man with, insan with. Allah has kept so many good qualities within this human being: talent, ability, sifat, mercy, generosity, patience, respect. This human being has been created for a purpose, for the hereafter. If he holds on to the deen, if he has the deen within him, then he will be heading towards success. The Creator who has given us this life is telling us that whomsoever has been given entry into paradise, he has been successful indeed. فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ. That life, that success, ultimate success, cannot be achieved just by living a life without any limits. We have to live a life in accordance to what Allah wants us to do. We have limits. We are slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have boundaries. And the most important thing before anything is to recognize our Creator. Allah has taught us and informed us through Qur'an, and history has taught the world that anybody who was successful in the history of this world was successful only when they had recognized their Creator. Many powerful people came and fame and money and everything, but because they did not have the recognition of Allah, they did not have deen, they were not successful. The whole Qur'an is full of stories and lessons for us in this area. This Ummah, respected brothers and elders, is the last of all nations, the last of all Ummah. And Allah's biggest honor is the revelation of the Qur'an with the final, clear, conclusive message. And the Prophet ﷺ, his mercy to this world, everything he said, the book was revealed upon him, the final guideline for mankind. Any machinery, car or phone or anything that you buy from the streets or from anywhere, from the markets, has a manual. So the Qur'an is the manual for mankind. It leads them towards success. Follow, brought into our lives. And this will save you from destruction in this world and hereafter. And this happens through bringing the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into our hearts. Allah does everything. Everything that's happening is happening with the will and the command and the intention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's nothing on this world that does not happen except with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He does everything. He honors you, He inspires you, He nurtures you, He gives you sustenance, He gives you qudrah, He gives you ability, He gives you everything from His own treasures. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this world as an expression of His greatness. Allah was there forever and will remain forever. This human was in non-existence. He did not exist. Allah gave this human being inside life. The things around us, respected brothers and sisters, can harm us and can benefit us. The circumstances that we face, good times, bad times, all come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah does everything. His intentions, His plans are executed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has informed us of the nations of the past, civilizations of the past, how those people of the past, whichever area, people who had large numbers, people who had physical strength, intellectual strength, people with, at the time of Nuh alayhi salam, the competition was about majority. Despite the majority being on the wrong, they were all destroyed. Only a few number, a small minority of people followed Nuh alayhi salam, small number. And the rest of the people, they said to Nuh, we are the majority, we have our ideology, why are you saying what you're saying? But despite them having the majority, Allah destroyed them. Only a few, less than 100, were following Nuh alayhi salam. And Nuh alayhi salam, respected brothers and sisters, the Qur'an tells us, was giving da'wah day and night. Not just for a few years, almost 1,000 years. They used to make fun of Nuh alayhi salam. They would reject his message. Nuh alayhi salam, out of mercy and out of affection, was patient, and he was continuously giving them the da'wah as Allah had asked him and commanded him to give da'wah. When he started to build his ark, his boat, they began to mock him. Where are you going to take this ark, this boat? There's no water around. They're mocking him, laughing, asking those rational arguments people ask today for everything. Where's the water? Where's the answer to your... But when Allah's intention was executed, water came and poured, and there was enough water. That same water became the means of their destruction. This same water became the means of destroying them and became a mercy for Nuh alayhi salam and his followers. Allah teaches you this lesson through that particular incident of history. Not a single person who had rejected the da'wah of Nuh alayhi salam remained alive. Allah mentions Nuh alayhi salam. He mentions Moses. His name is mentioned in almost every single bar. His name is mentioned everywhere. Musa alayhi salam and his interaction and his Fir'aun was his opponent. Fir'aun was his subject matter of his da'wah. Fir'aun had power, he had name, he had wealth, arrogance, everything people have. Musa had nothing. His mother placed him and left him when Fir'aun realized that there's a child that will be born from the Banu Israel, he will come and will take my kingdom. He tried his utmost best with all his military planning and all his intelligence and materialistic. He was trying his best for Musa not to live. He was killing children. What Allah does, the most amazing of maneuvers. The same Musa, Allah sent him to Fir'aun's palace. This proves one great reality. Allah does what He wants. The word impossible does not exist in Allah's terminology. He made the impossible, the inevitable. He killed thousands. Fir'aun killed and murdered thousands of children because he was fearing Musa. The Musa alayhi salam's mother was fearful. Allah inspired into her and gave her promises and assurances that I will return him back to you. He was made a prophet. Allah showed not just them, but is telling us that this is the lesson to learn, that Allah does everything. Musa alayhi salam was nurtured in the palace of Fir'aun with royal treatment. Then Musa alayhi salam, when Allah gave him prophethood, began to give dawah to Fir'aun. And his dawah to Fir'aun is mentioned in the Qur'an. And the lesson for us through Musa alayhi salam's life, he's telling us about Musa alayhi salam's dawah and his challenges, but he's reminding us that you need to make the same dawah. Why is Allah mentioning throughout the Qur'an that from the stories we come across, all the prophets, their challenges were dawah. Different challenges. Sometimes it's the majority that becomes the issue. Sometimes it's dictators that becomes an issue. Sometimes it's people with. There was a nation who were so obsessed with their technology and their advancement in building things and architecture. People who are obsessed with their agriculture. People who are like obsessed today with inventions and advancement. They had all these great claims, physical strength. Some prophets were given miracles like Isa alayhi salam to be able to bring dead back to life. These are all lessons for us to learn that the reality is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who does everything. Bring us back to track, to the straight path. A path in which we have absolute conviction and belief and yaqeen that it is Allah who does everything. And where does this need to firmly embed and entrench itself? Within our hearts. Our hearts are the most important, it's the most important organ in the body. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ tells us that there is an organ in the body, if you can rectify it, if you can correct it, and the whole body will follow. This yaqeen, this belief with firm conviction has to firmly penetrate into our hearts. This heart keeps changing because our feelings change, problems make us change, people make us change. When Iman is firmly in our hearts, deeply entrenched and embedded within our hearts, then you will see an expression through our actions and akhlaq. The sweetness of Iman, the sweetness. When we do dhikr of Allah, we will enjoy every second of it. If the heart is in a delusion, it's got illusions, and if it's got other things inside it, we have love for other things, then we won't feel the effect of Iman. Any fear, any inclination toward the creation that would exist in our heart will affect our conviction. The heart doesn't see anything directly. The heart is in our control. Allah has given us the ability to control what we see. So if we use the channels that affect the heart effectively, our eyes, our ears, our tongue, and our thinking, if we use these channels, whatever we see, if we immediately make our brain, this is called fikr, one is dhikr, one is fikr, if we have the correct contemplation, you see the most amazing of things, and all you simply say, this is the creation of Allah. It's only made out of sand and dust. It's Allah who's created this. Immediately the love and the attraction we will have towards that materialistic object will go away. How can we believe in the shops? Our shops need our own security. People believe that my shop is my means of sustenance. Our shops need our protection to exist. If we leave our shops open, would they remain secure? So we have to secure our own shops. So if our shops need our protection, how can the shops be our means of protection, our sustenance? Allah has given us life. He's given us a precious life. He's created us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the doer of everything. This yaqeen, respected brothers, has to firmly build within ourselves, in our hearts. And likewise, respected brothers, Muhammadur Rasulullah, the Prophet ﷺ's way, his lifestyle, his sunnah, his way of doing things, they are valuable. There's only one way to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by following the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. We know from the Prophet ﷺ's his miracles, he was given a challenge to split the moon. He pointed towards the moon. Allah from his will and power split the moon into two. They say every sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is more valuable in the heavens and the earth. The way of the Prophet ﷺ, his sunnah, his methodology, his wisdom, his way of doing things. We have to believe with the highest level of conviction that by following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, we will get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah clearly tells us in the Qur'an, you claim to love Allah, then following the Prophet ﷺ is your route. This entire world, respected brothers and elders, is moving, circulating because of the people of Iman. We know from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that the Qiyamah will not take place, the end of world, or the world will not come to an end until and unless there remains a single human being on planet Earth who is saying Allah, Allah. Therefore we know the value of this kalima. The world is moving and circulating because there are people who are saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. This is the Iman we have to learn. This is the Iman we have to strengthen. Our elders learned this Iman, the companions, the Sahaba learned this Iman. We know the famous statement of a Sahabi, تَعَلَّمْنَا الْإِيمَانِ ثُمَّ تَعَلَّمْنَا الْقُرْآنِ. We learned Iman, then we learned the Qur'an. You will not appreciate the Qur'an properly unless your Iman is intact. It took one companion 10 years to memorize Albaqarah. It's their language. Why it took them so long? They were learning Iman alongside learning the Qur'an. The place for Iman, respected brothers and elders, is the heart. And we will have to have Allah in our hearts. The heart is the most important place. And by giving dawah, by listening to dawah, by thinking about Allah, and by all these channels, once these channels are fully utilized for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the correct way, this is obedience. Our eyes and our ears and our intelligence and our tongue. If it's used in the obedience of Allah, in praising Allah, in giving da'wah towards Allah, in listening to the right things, then the Iman will strengthen. And then it will become easy for us to follow the injunctions, the ahkam, the rulings, praying salah. The companions understood this. And this is why they followed every hukum without any hesitation. There was no laziness, no hesitation. Salah is one of the first tests. Salah is where you communicate with Allah directly. The biggest means of communication. This Salah, respected brothers and elders. Every other ruling that came to the Prophet ﷺ, they were revealed upon the Prophet ﷺ via Jibreel. But the Salah is the only ruling and the only most rare, the only hukum which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not reveal to the Prophet ﷺ on planet Earth. He was taken on a miraculous journey above the heavens, to the furthest point called Sidratul Muntaha, and he was given Salah. Salah has the solution to all our problems. Companions used the Salah to bring dead back to life. Authentic narrations are, we know in the books of Hadith. One Sahabi was traveling and his donkey, just died, passed away. So the other companion said to him, just jump onto my ride and we'll go together. He said, no, just wait. He got off, prayed 2 rakats, Salatul Hajj, and he made dua to Allah. Powerful dua with yaqeen, conviction. Before he could even finish his dua, the donkey was back alive. This is authentic narration in books. And another well-known incident about an old lady who embraced Islam and brought her young child to Medina. And the day she arrived, coincidentally, in a few days her son passed away. So the people of Medina, because she left her tribe and she was fearing they're going to taunt her, She was concerned. All her non-Muslim relatives would taunt her and say, we told you not to become Muslim. So you become a Muslim and now their sons died. So she was fearing that, what they're going to say to her. She was very concerned, deeply concerned. Then she made such a powerful dua. They were preparing to bury her son. But she made such a powerful dua with such high level of conviction that before they could even bury her son, the son came back to life. This is the power of salah. When you make dua to Allah, when you have conviction and you have strength in your yaqeen, then there is no such thing as impossible for a believer. It's Allah who does everything for you. This yaqeen we have to learn. This yaqeen we can't learn just by talking. It is something which requires effort. When we pray our salah, initiate our salah, the first verse we recite is Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise to Allah who is the Lord of the universe. This is sending you the message that it's Allah who's nurturing you, it's Allah who's providing for you. When you repeat this and you remind yourself every rakat of every salah and 5 times a day, that Allah is the one that's giving you the sustenance. This is being reinforced and put back into our head again and again, because as humans we tend to forget. Sustenance is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands. Sustenance is not linked with just effort. Your sustenance is given to you in accordance to what Allah has prescribed and what Allah has destined for you. Otherwise, if you were to rationally argue, there's a person who works all his life, does hard labor work, he does building work and physical work, and he spends all his life working hard and he only gets a small level of a minimum wage. And you get somebody else who's just sitting down, one of 2 phone calls in the stock exchange and he's making millions. So it's not to do with efforts, it's to do with taqdeer. So risk and sustenance is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands. If you have salah in your life, Allah will make all your problems easy. Not just in this life, but your grave. Prophet ﷺ tells us that don't consider your grave just to be a pit. It's either going to be a pit of hell or a garden of paradise. How many of us are prepared for the grave? Allah can make this grave into a garden of paradise. And then after we are resurrected from the graves, we have to answer, we have to be accounted for. And then we have to go through that journey towards the first thing we'll be asked on the day of judgment, respected brothers and elders, is our salah. And this salah is very important, respected brothers and elders. It proves how much iman we have, how much connection we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People say they don't have time. They become busy. Busyness has become. Being busy is an excuse for salah. Salah is the biggest test of your iman. And salah is not just salah just by praying. It requires effort. There's almost 12,000. Ulama have counted and listed. They say there's almost 12,000 rules and regulations to learn about salah. So many delicate masail, how to make your salah strong, powerful. If we make our salah like the salah of the Prophet ﷺ, when we make the effort, this salah is so powerful, when a person makes sajdah, it shakes the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One sahabi, when he was reciting the Qur'an in his prayer at night, an angel came and told the Prophet ﷺ, because of his salah and his tilawat, the angels were from his house up until the heavens, there was a whole line of angels feeling the effects of this salah. To an extent that the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was shaking. How powerful this salah is. The Prophet ﷺ used to pray salah with so much dedication and so much conviction that his feet began to, his feet were being affected. And when Aisha radiallahu anha asked him, Ya Rasulullah, why do you pray so much in the night? He said, should I not be a grateful servant of Allah? And who are we to the Prophet ﷺ? We are nothing. His status is there and we are miles away. And where is our salah? And this can be built to respected brothers and elders by conviction, by concentration. You have to learn knowledge, seek knowledge for this. The knowledge of deen is very important. If you don't know what Allah wants from you, what is halal and what is haram, how is your action going to be accepted? Your 24-hour life, we have to learn knowledge through which we can live a 24-hour life In all the different spheres of life, different areas, everything becomes deen if you learn the deen, if you knowledge of deen. Prayer is only if you calculate it, 4 or 5 hours a day, salah. But the remaining 24 hour life, our socializing, our interaction, our seeking knowledge, our traveling, our marriage, everything. There are guidelines which Allah has sent down for us in the Qur'an. This book is preserved, protected. There are guidelines for humanity. Even if you pray salah according to the way you want, your salah will be rejected. Everything has to be learned in the way Allah wants you to do it. If you do it in accordance to how Allah wants you to do it, how the Prophet ﷺ showed you to do it, then that becomes ibadah, an act of worship. The Prophet ﷺ taught us etiquettes, manners, how to. The Qur'an was explained by the Prophet ﷺ through his actions. He was a walking, talking Qur'an. When Aisha radiallahu anha was asked, كيف كان خلق, how was the character of the Prophet ﷺ, she replied to the Sahaba, كان خلقه القرآن, his character was the Qur'an. These are things we have to learn, respected brothers and elders. These are things, when Sahaba learned these things from the Prophet ﷺ and they traveled, they did business, their business became a means of people coming into Islam. If you do anything according to your desire, it doesn't become deen. Following Allah's commands is deen. Following your desire is not deen. These are things we have to learn. And when we learn these things, when we learn this knowledge, when we gain knowledge, we also need to be aware of the fact. We have to acknowledge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's presence. We have to have the concentration. Allah is watching me. This is called ihsan in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And ta'bud Allah ka'annaka tarah. The internal feeling in your heart should be that Allah is watching you all the time. And when this is in your mind, then deception, theft, dishonesty will not exist in a person. Because you know that Allah is watching. This is called taqwa, in other words. God consciousness. Having this in your mind that Allah is watching you. Allah is watching everything. If there was an ant in a black stone beneath the mountain on a dark night, right at the bottom of the mountain, deep inside the mountain, it's dark, absolutely dark, and that ant is moving in this dark night under a dark stone in the deepest, darkest of mountains. Allah is aware of the movements of this ant. This is why Allah names the surah, one surah in the Quran is named after the ant. Because of the communication by one ant to other ants. Allah was so impressed with this communication because there was affection for others that Allah mentioned this during the time of Sulaiman alayhi salam, and the whole surah in the Quran is named after this incident of the ant. And the reality is, most of the sins we commit, it comes because of negligence. Negligence is a big crime. If you are unaware of Allah is watching you, you will commit whatever you want from the crimes. If you have God consciousness, if you have dhikr and Allah in your mind, and you are aware of Allah's presence, if you do dhikr regularly, then shaitan will stay away from you, and you will not commit crimes. Sins will not be coming from you. Those people who continuously commit sins, the heart becomes so dark. In the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, even if you give him good advice, he doesn't get affected. People are dying, he doesn't get affected. People are coming into Islam, scientists are coming into Islam, intellectuals are coming into Islam, it's not affecting him. The heart becomes so dark. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ tells us. This is why dhikr is very important. Remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One who spends in the path of Allah and one who does dhikr. Dhikr, person who does dhikr, he prevails because dhikr boosts your iman. And spending can come and go. If we have dhikr in our lives, we have ilm in our lives, then we will have a life with a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ta'alluq with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are prescribed adhkar, supplications which the Prophet ﷺ has taught us, morning, before eating, after eating, before sleeping. All these authentic supplications and adiyah ma'thura and these du'as, We need to be frequent in them. Then comes the next very important aspect of our character. Good character. Deen has spread through the character, good akhlaq. The Prophet ﷺ was given وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, the best of characters. If you have good character, good manners, good akhlaq, then the beauty of Islam will come out of you. Islam's many fitan, many problems in your house, in your society. Today the fight in the world is about my rights, my rights. Everybody wants their rights. The ruler wants his right from the people want their rights from the ruler. The poor wants it from the rich wants it from the poor. Today's fight is all about rights. Even the rich want their rights from the poor want their rights from the rich. The concept in Islam is fulfill your rights. Do your side and you will see everybody has the same mindset of fulfilling their rights, there will be no fighting in rights. The best of character is one who breaks connections, you maintain connections with them. Look at the people of Makkah, they intimidated the Prophet ﷺ, they rejected his message, they made him leave Makkah. And they were sent out of Makkah. Prosecuted, they were boycotted, sanctions, everything. But then when the Prophet ﷺ returned victorious and Makkah was conquered, the best of character was demonstrated. He forgave them all. He followed the footsteps of Yusuf alayhi salam. La tathiba alaykum al-yawm. Forgiveness. And if this is the case, if we have the true character and the best character, then the rich will look after the poor. The Prophet ﷺ made dua. Which person would make this dua today? Which ruler would make this dua today? He said, Allahumma ahyini miskina wa amitni miskina wa ahshurni yawm al-qiyamah ma'al masakin. Oh Allah, make me live with the poor, die with the poor, and resurrect me amongst the poor. This is the Prophet ﷺ. Helping others, having consideration towards others. There was a well-known scholar from Iraq, well-known name we come across. After he passed away, they realized that he used to secretly supply food to 40 households of Baghdad. Nobody knew who this person was. When he passed away, they realized that 40 households were left without any food. They had no more food coming for them. We have mercy for the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. When we have mercy for others, our neighbors, our parents, our children, our wives, then all the problems will be solved. We have problems today in houses, in our society, in our social issues. The Sahaba were taught to take from Allah and give to people, not to take from people. Today people are taking from people. Islam tells you to take from Allah and give to people. The generosity of Uthman ibn Affan, the generosity of the Sahaba radiallahu ajma'in. Hayat al-Sahaba teaches you, they will learn that the Prophet ﷺ taught and educated all his companions to give to others, to have generosity towards others, to help others. One who is indulged and busy in helping others, Allah will solve his problems. Whoever shows mercy towards one of the first hadiths they teach a student of hadith, it's called Musalsal bil Awwaliyah. The words of the hadith says, Irham man fil ardi yarhamka man fis sama. Be merciful towards the people on earth, the people of the heaven will be merciful towards you. But this has to be, all these things can only be achieved if our intention is correct. The motivation behind it. Allah doesn't look at your outwardly the way you look. He doesn't look at external realities, He looks into the internal reality. Are you doing things for name or fame? Or are you doing it for the sake of Allah? This dua, Allahumma inni zalamtu nafsi zulman kathira, was taught to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Salah is finishing. At the end of your salah you say, Allahumma inni zalamtu nafsi zulman kathira, وَلَا يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ. You finish your salah, look how much humility. The dua at the end of your salah, you're saying, Allah, I have oppressed myself. I haven't been able to worship you the way you deserve. ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي. is what Allah is teaching you, humility. Which category do we come into? I mean, the reality is, when a child scribbles on a piece of paper, even though it's nothing, the parents encourage them. Our salah and our ibadah is like scribbles on a piece of paper. In the eyes of Allah, it's nothing for him. But He is impressed with our motivation, our niyyah. And these companions were very simple in their dressing, in their outwardly presentation. But they had such powerful conviction and belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the doors of Jannah are calling them. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu gave everything for the deen. And he came with clothes, which were ripped up, and yet it was sewn on. His clothes. And he was given salam, was sent to him by the Prophet ﷺ to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. What is this? This is called generosity. These are our elders, the companions, the followers of the Prophet ﷺ. Their lives are our simple life. He's a rich businessman, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, before Islam. But the life he lived, life of simplicity, giving others, benefiting others. This is Islam. Our elders gave their lives for this deen. One Sahabi said, "Oh Allah, the amount of hairs I have on my body, for every hair I would if I had this many lives, I would give those lives for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." One Sahabi, when he was about to be finished and punished by a tyrant, he began to cry, and the king said to him, "Why are you crying? Are you afraid of death?" He said, "No, because I'm only afraid of the fact that only if I had more lives, so I could be given life again, and again give my life for the deen, and then be given death, and then be given life again. ثُمَّ أَحْيَا ثُمَّ أُقْتَلْ ثُمَّ أُحْيَا." These are the words of the Sahaba. Their conviction for the sake of serving the deen, giving their life, their energy for the sake of. And these Sahaba were therefore honored. Radiyallahu anhum. Was this because of their wealth? Was this because of their lineage? If it was to do with their dressing, he had 16 patches on his clothes, the Khalifa of Islam, the ruler of a kingdom which was spread from east to west. They were looking for Umar ibn Khattab. Somebody came to look for him. They're looking for Umar ibn Khattab. They can't find him. They find him sleeping on the tree. No security, no special protocol. He doesn't even have any bedding to sleep on. He's sleeping under the tree, the Khalifa of the time. The Roman Empire, fearing this person, they used to fear the name of Umar ibn Khattab. Look at his life, simple person under the tree. And when the keys of Quds were being handed over to him, the people of Quds did not want to hand over the keys to anyone. They said, "We want to give it to Umar. We don't trust anyone." And when Umar arrives in Quds, heading towards the homeland, he's coming. His assistant is on the ride and he's walking. He's holding the ride, holding the camel or the donkey. Those people said, "This has to be Umar ibn Khattab." This is simplicity. This is their lives, reflected what we need to bring into our lives. How connected they were with Allah, how humble they were in their character, how considerate and compassionate they were towards mankind. And because of this reality, Allah brought Islam, and Islam prevailed, and it spread like wildfire, place to place, territory to territory, it went everywhere. But the reality was, the purpose was to save mankind from the fire of hell. Allah has selected us, chosen us. 124,000 approximate prophets came down to this world, from Adam alayhi salam to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. All the prophets came for one mission, to connect us to our Creator. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the last of all prophets. From the moment he passed away until Qiyamah, everyone who comes until Qiyamah is in the Ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Who will introduce them to Allah? Whose responsibility does it lie? Whose responsibility is it? The greatest of favors is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this responsibility on each and every individual. This responsibility is not upon us, a group. Every Sahabi from the Alif of Abu Bakr until the Ya of Ali was responsible for this da'wah. This was not given just to the scholars amongst the Sahaba or the businessmen amongst the Sahaba. It was given to everyone, rich, poor, east, west, from all different walks of life. This work of da'wah is the responsibility. كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ, as the hadith of the Prophet tells you, every single one of you is responsible. And when this ummah forgot its mission of da'wah, the loss the ummah faced, the suffering it faced until today, is because of us leaving this great obligation of da'wah. So the ghayr, the ones who don't have this, who have accepted this da'wah, who haven't taken on this da'wah, we have to have mercy for them. Allah has chosen us for this. We have been selected for this work of da'wah. Nobody becomes a prophet himself. You don't decide to become a prophet. Allah chooses you. We did not ask Allah to be in His ummah, on the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, but Allah made us in His ummah. From some indication of Salaf in the hadith that prophets prayed to be in this ummah. And the dua of Isa alayhi salam was accepted, and he will be the only honorable prophet who will be near Qiyamah returning in this ummah. He will be a follower of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sharia of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he will be buried next to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's grave in Medina. This is a big responsibility, respected. We will be asked, the knowledge Allah has given us, the talent He has given us, the ability He has given us. It's not just about eating, drinking, entertaining and dying. Our elders took on this responsibility with full responsibility, and we're still thinking, we're still planning, we're still discussing, debating whether we should do it or not. We're still fighting over the dishes. This is our responsibility, respected brothers and elders. This is something which our elders did with 100% conviction. The entire humanity from east to west, it's our responsibility to bring this deen to them. Allah has chosen us, selected us, nominated us. This life is just, it's a journey. We're not here forever. Anybody who thinks he's going to be here forever, he's the biggest fool. We're passing by in seconds and hours. Has dunya ever gone with anyone in their grave? When they get buried, do they take money with them? Their iPads and iPhones with them in their grave? Everything will be taken off you when they bury you. They'll wash you, they'll make sure not a single piece of mud stays on your skin. This is what we're encouraging people to prepare for this. Whether you're young, old, weak, strong, rich, poor, everybody has a responsibility. We'll be accounted for this, we'll be asked about this in the day of judgment. We are from the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, the best of all prophets. We are from the best of all Ummah, the best of Ummah, the best of nations. We'll be asked, Kuntum khayra ummatin, what did you do with this Kuntum khayra ummatin? This work of da'wah is very simple, it's not sophisticated. Deen is simple and easy. If we do this work in a structured way and with how much we can do, Allah will keep us steadfast upon the deen. Our iman will remain strong and intact. Otherwise the iman will begin to decrease. Sahaba have done some amazing things. Sahaba, when they took the message of da'wah and they went towards the Persian lands, their horses went over rivers, which is impossible for me and you to accept. But this happened with them because Allah helped them to preserve the deen. When you go out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help will be with you. The impossible will become possible. Whether your nafs and you feel like you don't do deen because you feel like doing it or you don't feel like doing it. It's something you have to do. It's like you wake up in the morning, you have to have your breakfast. You can't say, I don't feel like having breakfast. You have to have it. This deen, respectable, is so, the honor of a mu'min is so precious. And going in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is such a valuable, and such a blissful amal. The Prophet says in the hadith, La ghudwatun wa rawhatun fi sabilillah khayrun min ad-dunya wa ma fiha. One morning and one evening in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is better than the world and whatever the world contains. Because this dunya will perish. Allah and the reward He has for you will remain. When we go in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then kufr will go down. Our sins will decrease. The strength of haqq will prevail. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have the world under the world is in Allah's control. He will control things in accordance to the way Allah wants. This is why, respected others, the 200 plus countries in the world, right now there are requirements and taqazas from the elders to send Dawah, Jamaats and exhibition to every single country in the world. Right now we are here, and many countries in the world are in need of this Dawah. Fiji Islands, we know Jamaat from England went to New Zealand, went to Australia. Jamaat from Australia came here. Jamaat from New Zealand came here. Jamaat from Fiji, which is the peak of the world. It takes 20 hours to get there. Jamaat from Fiji have come here. Jamaat from here have gone to South America, far off, all over the world. We'll be lucky if we are those lucky individuals who Allah takes that far. And they're only going for the sake of Allah, for the sake of bringing deen and taking His deen wherever they go. Haqq will prevail and deen will prevail. For this, respected brothers and elders, now we could remain seated inshallah until the end. You know, if somebody does anybody need encouragement to go and earn a living? You know the harm of not earning a living. Because dunya is in front of our eyes, we don't need no encouragement. For deen, unfortunately, because of our weakness, we need encouragement. There are angels who can count the leaves on the trees that fall. But the angels cannot count the reward of the person who goes out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to go, brothers. You know, when people go to work, sometimes they wake up in the morning, Monday morning, they don't want to go work. They don't feel like going to work. But you still have to go. Deen, you have to do the work of deen, build the yaqeen in our hearts. Encourage yourself, convince yourself. When you stand up, it breaks the backbone of shaitan. Shaitan warns you, scares you, and confuses you. So don't be fair. The Qur'an says, "Ash-shaytanu ya'idukum al-faqra wa ya'murukum bil-fahsha." Shaitan scares you of what? Poverty, and encourages you to do bad. Allah reminds you that He gives you rizq. It's mentioned, I give you rizq throughout the Qur'an. All over the Qur'an. This one verse tells you that shaitan warns you and scares you of poverty. So don't let shaitan misdirect you and warn you and scare you. So inshallah, brothers, now we have tashkeel, inshallah. The request is for everyone to remain seated until the end, because tashkeel is very important. By us sitting and remaining there until the end, the ones who stand up and are inspired by our silence and our dua and fikr will be rewarded. You don't know what will happen to you tomorrow. No one knows what will happen to you tomorrow. Youngsters need to stand up, elders need to stand up, everyone needs to stand up and give their names, inshallah. Become a means of bringing khair and good to the world, inshallah.